Introduce
Yes,
me.
I'm waiting for her to start.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Okay, yes.
There we
yes.
go.
Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to our last webinar of the spring semester. But we do have a few other events coming up I want to tell you about quickly before we get started. One of them is on Wednesday, May 29th. There is a Molly webinar, Leadership in Quality Assurance and Accreditation by Deborah, the CEO of Quality Matters. Also coming up at the end of June 27th, is our Molly retreat at the Montgomery College Germantown campus. And then last thing that's coming up in August is our second annual, I guess now, Virtual Professional Development Day, sponsored by Maryland Online on Thursday, August 16th. So more information about those things either already is or will be soon available on the MOL website. So for our last webinar of the semester, I would like to welcome Debbie Dorsey back again for another webinar about our accessibility in our accessibility series. If you don't know Debbie, she is an assistant professor of health at Harford Community College. Debbie is also a Maryland Distance Learning Association board member, a Quality Matters peer reviewer, and a 2020 NISOD Excellence Award recipient. So Debbie, thank you again for being with us, and I will turn it over to you.
All right. Hi, everybody. So what I'm going to do, if you're familiar with my webinars, I always turn my camera off once we get started. I just like for you to see that I'm really a person before we begin. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my video right now. Okay, and now you should be able to see my screen. And if you can't, just give me a holler and I'll do some things, but hopefully everybody can see the slides now. So today we're going to talk about semantic structure and what that means. And I don't want people to get sort of scared about that term, but what semantic structure means, it really has to do with coding. However, like I said, we're not going to get into the coding at all, but I do want you to understand where it's coming from. So right now, what I'm showing you is really bad text. And so a lot of times what this is sort of leftovers from when we used to generate hard copy. And we're still sort of creating these documents and web pages that continue to have some of those hard copy present or look to them. Okay, so let's go into semantic structure just briefly. And if you've been to any of my presentations before, this is somewhat of a continuation of when we talked about having enough white space, not using color to convey meaning. So what semantic structure means is that, and you can see it right here. I don't know if you're like me, this comes from Adobe. And when I look at this sign, I sort of go, I've learned how to fix some of this, but it is very overwhelming to me. But what this is elements with a meaning. And so when we look at this, you see the table, figure, all of these things are created in such a way that they convey the meaning. And this is important when people who are using assistive technology are trying to navigate. Okay, so like I said, we're not going to really go into coding very much. I just want you to understand what's driving this. But we're going to, again, continue to review. So semantic, I'm always getting it confused. That particular way of doing things, it has an impact on perceivability. And perceivability is the person's ability to understand what it is they're looking at. So this is an image, this is text, this is a heading. We sort of talked about this before, that perceivability means that I can recognize what is on a page. And it also has an impact on operability. And what that means is the student or the learner's ability to engage with your material. And not every student is going to do that in a similar fashion. We typically, those of us who are not using assistive technology, we engage with the material through using the keyboard and through using a mouse, things like that. But a person who is using a screen reader, they're going to navigate it differently. And there are other forms of assistive technology, I always use the screen reader as my example because I think it's the most obvious that when there's a problem, the screen reader will show it. Okay. So like I said, this is a holdover from a hard copy from those hard copy days. And this is a syllabus. You can see that I'm using underline to section it off. So course description, underlined, there it is. And we can even see back at one time, we at Harford Community College needed to also put our academic outcomes with our SLOs. We no longer have to do that, but I keep it just as a demonstration that, again, here's the use of underlining, and it's not appropriate. One of the reasons being is, first of all, these could look like hyperlinks. A student could erroneously believe that if they selected course description, it would take them somewhere. So in general, we want to start moving away from underlining text. The other part of this is that these particular sections have not applied styles, and I'm going to get into that in just a second. But styles are basically identifying this is header 1, this is header 2, and they create that semantic structure so that as the person navigates through the material, it makes sense to them. We also have times used underlining for emphasis. Also, the white space around this is horrendous. We had said we really want to have about, and white space meaning all of the actual white space around the text, that we really want to have about like a 1.5 to a 2.0 line spacing. But also right here, workout cards, that is underlined, student conduct. Again, it's could be misperceived as a hyperlink. And really, it does not work. When we underline text, because we're trying to emphasize its importance, it doesn't have the impact that we were hoping for. And a person using a screen reader, they're not going to hear workout cards must be turned in underlined for emphasis. They have no idea of knowing that that is what you were trying to do. Now, I also show this that number 7 is put in a box. And again, the whole intent was to demonstrate that this was important. And like I said, we know that that's not true. But here is the other problem. A student using a screen reader will get to number 7 and it will say table, because that is essentially, that is a one-celled table. It will say table 7 and then read it through. That's very confusing to them. You know, when you think about a table, you're going to think about it having multiple columns, multiple rows. So boxing something, using a table to separate different aspects of your text, never do that. It is not a good idea. And like I said, it's not going to do what you were hoping it would do. Okay, so what we're talking about here is a hierarchy. And we're going to get into Microsoft Word and talk about this. Heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. What it's doing is telling the student that there are subsections. So heading 1 would be your main section. And then when you want to break it into subsequent sections under that main one, the screen reader will say heading 2, and then it will read it. And again, the person who is using a screen reader, they're able to sort of visualize it in their head, what you are trying to convey to them. Okay, so I'm going to show you a way to fix this using Microsoft Word. But first, 2 things. One thing that we have been moving towards is creating content in Microsoft Word and then copying and pasting it into our LMS, whether that's a page in Blackboard, I think they call it an item, or HTML in Brightspace. I'm assuming that Canvas has a version of that as well. That we're hoping that what we create in Microsoft Word will copy over into the LMS, and meaning it will maintain all of the headings, it will still be able to communicate to the student the different sections of your page. However, I have observed that that is inconsistent in both Brightspace and in Blackboard. So if you decide to do it, now look, I still do it, but when you decide to do it, if you're going to copy and paste into Word from Word into your LMS, you are going to need to just go back and double check that everything copied over. And that's actually, I know with Brightspace, it will show you this is heading 1, this is heading 2, this is heading 3. For right now, I am going to show you how to fix something that was horrendous. It was initially created with the intent to distribute to as hard copy. We're going to show how to fix it. And I will forewarn you that some of it is a little tedious, but that is just the nature of doing these sorts of things. And then once, of course, when things are tedious, once we get into the habit of doing them, it tends not to be as bad, right? Also, when you do something, now some people still feel that they want to put up PDFs in their LMS. That is a little bit of a cleaner conversion, meaning when you create something in Word that is accessible and then you save it as a PDF, you can feel fairly certain that those headings and all of the semantic structure carries over into that PDF. So if you prefer to post a PDF up into your LMS, again, you can feel pretty sure that it's going to be okay. All right, so there's also some controversy in terms of when we use a Word document to create content, and we're going to either put it up as a Word document or we're going to put it up as a PDF. And I will explain that in just a second. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and get out of my thing here. Okay, and just to let me know, is everyone able to see this particular the Microsoft Word that I'm in right now? I don't trust my not trusting my computer to show the right thing. Are you able
Yes,
to
we
see?
see we see it,
Yes.
Debbie. Yes, we
Okay,
see it.
awesome. Okay, so notice, right, that this is incorrect. First of all, we've got like different size fonts here, which just from the way that it looks, it's poor. We have some underlined texts. We don't have, see how in course policies, it says body text. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about applying styles, that we would have heading 1, heading 2, normal text, heading 3. And what that means is as the person using the screen reader scrolls through, it will announce. But for right now, what it's saying is, because it's body text, it's saying course description and it reads right into it. And so it's not really, it's not necessarily intuitive to the student using the screen reader. Also, notice how all of this is together. When the screen reader reads it, it's going to go straight across, and it sounds very bad. It's going to go, when it reads Tuesday and Thursday, that's what you're trying to convey. It's going to say Tues and Thur. So we want to spell it all the way out. And then we would want to have these things separated into individual lines. Now, if you inherited something like this, I have found that it is best to copy and paste it as plain text into a new Word document rather than go through and try to apply your styles here. And the reason being, do you see heading 1, heading 2? This really isn't what I want it to look like. A lot of times when you inherit some kind of a document and it was created with an older version of Word, it's just a hot mess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of this. Now, the one thing I will say is, do you see how there's this table right here? It's not going to copy and paste over nicely into a new document. So for right now, I'm actually just going to stick with the text. So I'm going to copy it. I'll open a new document, and I'm going to paste this as plain text. Okay. And notice that when I did it, it held all of the font. I like mine to be in Calibri 12, but it started to kind of separate some things out, right? So the first thing that I need to do, like I said, is I need to clean this up so that it looks a little bit better, right? And I want to spell this all the way out. I like to put end Thursday just because I'm never quite sure how it's going to read that end symbol. And so what we want to do then is start applying our styles. Now, this is my sort of way that I move through documents. There are certainly other ways to do it, but I just start taking out those individual spaces. And this is important because when there are times that when we create something and we have that extra space in there, if it's saved and it goes over into a PDF, it will have a tendency to mess up the semantic structure. The coding is sort of all crazy. And so you just want to start by taking out those extra spaces. Then what I like to do is I like to go in and set my line spacing. And again, remember that we said that 1.5 is a decent place to start. Depending on how wordy my document is, I might put in 2.0, but we're going to start with 1.5. We're also going to add a space before paragraph. Sometimes you'll see right here, add a space after paragraph. Right now, it's not highlighted. However, if it was, you would want to add that too, okay? And notice here, we don't have any of our styles in just yet, but notice here that it's just its readability is improved. So even a person who is not using a screen reader, it's just gonna, I always say, it looks nicer on the eyeballs. So then we want to go up and we want to start adding in our styles. So Health 202, we could say that this is a title. So I highlight it and I go in and I say it's a title. Okay. Now, from here, I've done different things with this. Sometimes I've made these things individually, different sections. But what I would do at this point is I would actually go in and add course information. Okay. And I'm going to make that heading number 1. What this tells the student is course information. Now I will be giving all of that information, such as the instructor, the phone, the preferred method of contact. So this is all of your information that you're going to give your student that's about the course, like them being able to do this. Now, do you see this days, time, / right here? Again, what I like to do is put the word end. So basically what I want to do is I want to take out anything that's a symbol and replace it with a word. Now, you can add these little dots. I never remember what the names of that are, but I like to take out in any kind of a heading. I just like to take that out because, again, I don't think it looks super great. And I want to use my headings to really explain what is going on here, right? What are the different sections of this particular syllabus? So now I'm going to go to course description and I am going to pick heading 1. Okay. Again, want to take out here upon satisfactory. Then I want to make this student learning objectives heading 1. Now here's where it gets controversial. Okay. From here, we are going to make a numbered list. Most of the time, even if the numbers carried through, you can just hit right up here, the number in the paragraph section, and it brings straight through. Now, here is where it gets controversial. We are on page 2. There are some people in the accessibility field that believe that you should up here, that this should have been heading 1, this should have been heading 2, this should have been heading 3, and then it starts again, instructional methods. I remember I was at a head conference that was in Columbia debating this with the person who was leading an Adobe session on accessibility. And the reason being is that when a screen reader reads these sorts of things, it's going to, I believe, confuse the learner into thinking that the course description could be a subsection of the course information, when in fact, I believe that it should be considered a separate section. So heading 1, okay? When I get to this one, again, in the world of accessibility, some people would say, okay, you're on a new page. Yes, that is a heading 1, but they believe that this should be a heading 2. And if there was a section here, makeup work, that this should be a section 3. I believe that, again, these should be standalones. So I'm going to set heading 1, and it conveys to the student, here was the instructional materials. We're going to move on to the rest. This is another section. But I want to go back up here to instructional materials and show you something. See where it says to achieve student learning instructives, instruction includes. It doesn't really look all that nicely, that it just runs together. And here is where we can put in a bulleted list. And I'll explain a little bit more about this in an upcoming slide. But I would actually separate it out. I would capitalize, right? Group discussion. Really, it's a matter of preference, but I always take out the commas and the ends, because if you have a bulleted list, it will explain it to the student. Bullet 1, lecture discussion. Up here in my paragraph, I'm going to give it bulleted, and there we go. Now, here is an example of where I might go into a second heading, is in required text. And I'm going to take that out, put it in here, because we could say that required text is part of instructional methods. So right here, if I wanted to, I could put a heading number 2. And again, what it could convey then to the student is heading 1, instructional methods. It will go straight through. Heading 2, required text. It is conveying that this is part of instructional methods. Okay. Course policies, I've set a heading 1, and it just continues on. I think that you sort of are getting the gist of what I'm saying here. Participation, I might make that another heading 1, and so forth. Okay, now tables. I'm going to go back to my original, and tables are the things that always tables can get very complicated. Right here, you can see that my table is not really set up to be accessible. The reason being is, first of all, see how if I scroll down through the page, the header did not follow onto the next page. So what I would want to do is I would want to go in, if I copy and pasted this, and again, this is where it's difficult. And I'm going to show you why. See, if I did a paste as plain text, it put it all out in a list form. Okay, but going back up and deleting this, there we go. I have a couple different options up here from paste. So I can use the destination theme, which basically is going to take it from where it started, right here, and carry it over. Now, I could also do a paste, keeping the source format, a paste merge formatting. I actually never use this, but I'm going to show you right now, you never use paste as picture. Never, ever, ever use this one. I wish that Microsoft Word would actually take it out. What I want to do and use destination theme. I think I misspoke. So use destination theme means that it's going to carry over where it was going, right? So if I select this, it's going to carry over the font and that's and so forth. If I use keep source formatting, it's going to carry over what the source, where it was coming from right here. But right here is a bit of a problem. This is not an accessible table. And like I said, the reason being is it does not repeat the header and the rows. It's got a broken cell right here. So what's going to happen if a person's using a screen reader and it's not set up? It's going to go week, chapters, Blackboard classroom activity. Then it's going to go week 1, chapters 1, 2, Blackboard work none, classroom activity 1/28 syllabus review. Then it's going to go back to the top. Week 2, chapters 1, 2, Blackboard. Here's the problem. Quiz 1. And now it's got this merged cell. And this is where it can really screw things up. It would be, it sometimes it depends on the screen reader. It just kind of taps out at that point. Sometimes it says blank cell. So if you think about it, right, you as a person using a screen reader, again, what you're trying to do is visualize in your head what is happening right through here. So what I did was, when I go back to the document, I actually create an entirely new table. And so what I would do is create the headers, and then I would figure out a way to take out these blank cells. I would actually spell out July 28th to February 2nd. I might even add in an additional column that says dates. Now, on this particular class, it's a hybrid. You can tell there was some quizzes that they did online, and then there were some classroom activities. So what I might actually do is put a a column right here and put in as my title, Blackboard work dates. Then here I would put in another column and put in this one here, classroom activity, and then on my new column, classroom activity dates. That's going to make your life a whole lot easier. I know it's tedious, but if you just start that table from scratch. Now see right here where it says spring break, we want to get that out entirely. So at that point, what you might just do is underneath your outline of course periods, you might just put in spring break, or perhaps you could just go up. Let me go into my correct one. You could really just go up here and put in spring break as well, because you've informed the student ahead of time that one of the reasons why your table, again, we're going to go to ugly table, but just use it as an example, why your table dates may skip a week, right? Again, if your information was ahead of that, it's going to make sense. Now, I want you to imagine that I have fixed this table. I'm going to show you one more thing. We're still in the ugly syllabus, but again, let's imagine that I fixed it. When I have my space in my mouse in any of the cells, if I go up to layout, what I want to do is put repeat header rows. But do you see how it's not an option? That is because it's not a great table. So I'm just going to show you one particular row. We'll go ahead in, even though, again, like I said, we pretty much want it to start this fresh. But like I said, what I might do is add a column that says Blackboard work dates. I think I'm going over time though. Here, I sort of wanted to show you a lot of this like in the demo. I would put classroom activity dates, And then up here, I would do repeat header rows. And that means that as that goes on to the next page, it's going to keep that row repeating. Okay, so go back in and just sort of summarize what we talked about. Oh, let's do the display settings. We'll switch. I don't know why it does that. Okay, we talked about ordered lists. There are numbers, and that means that they go, when you want to do an ordered list, you want to use numbers, and that's because it goes into a series. So this is an example of that. I want that student to follow these in a specific order, launch the Strava app, select record. It makes sense that I would do that using a numbered series.
Debbie,
We are over
out of
time. Okay.
So it's just, I let everybody know that if you need to leave, you can email any questions you have either to the person that sent you this invite, or if Debbie wants to share her email address, you can email questions to her. And I'm going to put up the slide real quick.
Okay.
And then if anybody does want to stay.
Can I just say, I'm actually almost finished. Can I just,
okay, go ahead.
give one more?
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So we talked about ordered lists. Unordered lists are bullets or letters. And again, you're going to use those when you don't necessarily need to convey to the learner that these things are going to go in a sequential order. If you want more information, we do have our QR code here, but it is in the Maryland Online YouTube channel, and you will see the playlist for accessibility. All right. I'm going to come out of mine, and then Marjorie, if you want to go ahead and put up.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was just trying to be
that's okay.
people's time and make sure they get a chance to see the slide that they're supposed to. Let me just pop this up here before I. If you need a slide for. So you can use this slide as your proof of attendance. There we go. All right, now I'm seeing just a blank screen. What did I do here?
I was having some trouble with it too today. I'm not quite sure what
I was.
When
I switched the slideshow view, it basically just like, there we go. There we go. So, Debbie, if you, I don't know if you, again, for those of you that need to leave, please feel free to leave. And Debbie, I don't know if you want to hang around and take one or two questions, or if you want to have just people, if you want to have you email questions, we'll take like maybe one or two, and then we'll call it a day, I think.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm sorry I went over there. Like I said, there is a lot of teaching in this particular, with using this, but yes, I can take any questions.
Okay, questions, or is everyone, that was very thorough. Thank you. That's very good.
I know I'm very thorough, right?
All right. Well, great. Well, Debbie, thanks again. And for those of you that can't get enough, Debbie will be back in the fall with 4 more short half-hour how-to webinars about accessibility. And I understand there's also possibly another event coming up that you can get information from Maryland Online, and I'm sure we'll be sending an email about that event as well, coming up about accessibility. So again, thank you. Everyone enjoy the end of the semester, and we will see you at some future events.
All right. Thanks.